And so I think being open to doing something different and not trying to overthink it, not thinking, oh no, that's not my brand. My brand is this. I can't go do this. I have to be able to say it might not work, but I'm still going to try.
Welcome to our latest episode of Book Reporter Talks To, where our guest today is Ashley Elston, and we're going to be talking about her first adult thriller, First Lie Wins, which is the hottest January release to date, folks. I've got to tell you, this is a Reese's pick for January. It's an instant New York Times, USA Today, and Publishers Weekly bestseller. It's all in 1 week, folks. It's all within a couple of days, and it's a Book Reporter Bets On selection. Now, I read this back in August, and I have been dying for our readers to go read this book because I can't talk a lot about it until you've read it. And when you read it, you're going to see why, because this is very different from thrillers that I've read before, where I would sort of start guessing, or it's like this one, it's like that one. I tell you, folks, this is not like anything I've read before. No. So in our book reporter review, Ray Palin had this to say: First Lie Wins is unpredictable in every sense of the word, and wraps up with a completely satisfying ending that will reward all readers who follow along with Evie on her journey. And with that, welcome, Ashley. So great to have you here.
Thank you. My cheeks are going to hurt from all that smiling because I love hearing all that. It's amazing. Thank you for having me.
New exercises.
Yes.
Like, what does this one do? What does this one do? So let's start with you giving us a little overview of First Lie Wins, because you can't tell much because you spoil it. So you can't.
I know. It's so hard because you want to like say something that makes it, sound exciting, but vague enough to not give it away. So what I say is First Lie Wins follows a woman who has worked for her mysterious boss for the last 10 years under various aliases. But when past mistakes begin to catch up with her, she realizes there's more on the line than she originally thought. Super vague. Maybe fun.
Super vague, but very sincere. Very, very, very sincere. So how did you come up with this idea of this woman who's this con, but she's still noble inside? I mean, where'd she come from?
So I had, finished my, last YA book. It was a rom-com. It was kind of a weird time for me because I didn't really know what I wanted to write next. It was also COVID, which was weird for everybody. And I was like, I don't know. But I'm a photographer, that was my previous life. I was a photographer. And so I'm very visual. And so I kind of have to see a scene in my mind before I start writing it. And I saw this dinner party scene, and I saw the table, and I saw the people sitting around the table. And I was like, okay. And then I started building that conversation in my head. Like, what would they talk about? And what if somebody there was kind of shady or lying or not there for good reasons? And so I just wrote the scene, and I was like, oh, okay. And I had, sort of Evie's kind of her interior monologue going on. And I was like, okay, I'm liking her, I wonder what she's about. And I just sort of gave myself this freedom to just sort of, what would she do next? What would she do next? And then we did the apartment scene. I was like, okay, I'm really liking her. And so that's kind of how it just started. And then, at some point you have to say, okay, what is this book about? What am I trying to do? But I just sort of kind of let her grow a little bit.
I was rereading this morning, and the apartment scene is so great of like what she does. Yeah, we're not going to share it. We're not going to give anything away. I want to share a big, great paragraph that I highlighted that's right from the beginning of the book. So let me see if we can do this.
Okay.
There's an old saying, first lie wins. It's not referring to the little white kind that tumble out with little to no thought. It refers to the big one, the one that changes the game, the one that's deliberate, the lie that sets the stage for everything that comes after it. And once the lie is told, it's what most people believe to be true. The first lie has to be the strongest, the most important, the one that has to be told. I feel like that paragraph right there. Okay, now I read this in August, so I got this I didn't drop it in the pool. That's the good news. But I had this page folded down. And as soon as I saw that today, it's like, I remember standing there saying, that really is so much of what this book is about. And that could have been the about the book copy.
It really, yes, it could have been. So when you're trying to come up with titles and you start Googling things like lying or, phrases with lying or, trying to get something, I came across this article that was written about the show Catherine the Great. I have not seen the show, but in the show, Catherine has a pretty nasty rumor. I'll let you Google it about her going around. And once it was told, there was no, getting ahead of that lie. Like everybody believed it to be true. It didn't matter what she said, didn't matter how outrageous it was. They believed it. And I think in the show, somebody says, because it's an old saying, first lie wins, and somebody says the thing. And I was like, God, I really do love that. And then if you really take into like even like social media today,
Mhm.
and you take into things like, people in power or want to be in power, and they say the most outrageous things, but they say it with such conviction
Mhm.
and they just own it. And they believe it. And you're like, well, that's outrageous. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. Doesn't matter. They believe it because it was told with such authority.
Mhm.
And that's sort of what she learns is if you say it with enough confidence, with enough authority, people believe it because it's believable when it's delivered that way. And that's sort of what the whole thing is about is, I can get you to believe that first one, I've got you for the rest.
Yeah, I've got you convinced. I've got
Mhm.
you convinced. And you're looking at me. And it's true. You hear so many things. The other night, just to segue here for a second, Peacock put out like right after they Kansas City game,
Right.
and they said 23 million people streamed this game. I'm just sitting there like, this is just not making one shred of sense to me. And one of the announcers sits out and says this. And I immediately said, this makes zero sense that this many people signed up for this, that like somebody my dad's age wouldn't even know how to go sign up for
Right.
this and take out the credit card and put the credit card. And I said, but it was said with such conviction by the announcer
Mhm.
that if you're not really, and it's the most streamed thing ever. And my immediate thing is, what's the second then? Like
Right.
what was the second? Like is it like Bambi? I mean, like what was the show that we are going to tell me was second to it? But
Right.
it wasn't a Taylor Swift kind of thing. Like tell me, and it's just really funny. But if you say you're right, if you say it with conviction, it's like, oh yeah, that's what happened. You
Mhm.
know,
It is,
oh,
yeah.
aren't we great? You know.
Yeah. And that's sort of, that's kind of, any good con artist. I mean, that's what they have the ability to convince you that they're
Mhm.
saying it's true and you don't really doubt it. And, it's definitely a gift for those type of people. And, she's one of those people.
One of those people, but she's also got a moral code. She's got a soul. She's
She,
not just a con. She's got this heart and she's got this soul. So as she's doing certain things, she really is seeing the ramifications on the other person.
Mhm.
She's understanding what her job is, but she's trying not to hurt too much. And I
Mhm.
think that a lot of times when you think of somebody who's a con, they have no heart, they have no soul, and they have no moral compass whatsoever. Were
Right.
you really structuring that into her? Like, did part of actually channel through and go, she can't be that bad, you know?
Well, I like the idea that she kind of came to this kind of criminal life in a sort of a desperate moment,
Mhm.
for her reasons. But then she realized that she was good at it. And I think that she was okay, like, I'm good at it, and I'm going to be okay that I'm good at it. And I'm going to climb sort of my own corporate ladder, even if it's an illegal one. Right. But I know the lines I will cross and I know the lines I won't cross. And so she sort of has, her own right and wrong, even if it's not a legal one. And it
Mhm.
was just sort of had enough like, I know who I am and I'm unapologetically good at this, but I also won't cross a line that I'm not comfortable with.
I'm not going to go hurt somebody else by doing.
Mhm.
So Mr. Smith is her boss. Mr. Smith is this character that we really don't know. He's this clandestine kind of character. It's like, the wizard behind and who is this, who's running Oz. And
Right.
I feel like just creating him, you got to sort of have this whole picture of who he is because he has no problem telling her what to do, whether it's moral or not. And then
Mhm.
she has to take what's going on. What was it like, putting together a clandestine character like he is?
Well, I mean, it's fun because it's like the mystery of like, there's some freedom there. Like I can really, how far can I stretch my wings on this? Right. And with each edit, I sort of got a little bit better picture of who I wanted him to be. And he changed
Mhm.
throughout who, from the edits, until I finally settled in who he needed to be. And, but it took sort of really getting in deeper and deeper and deeper with him. But it was fun to write that because it's like, like you said, the guy behind the curtain, the guy pulling the strings. And it's like, it was fun, it was fun.
And she's always wondering who he is. Who he is.
Hmm.
Am I passing him on the street? Is he
Yes.
sitting at the table next to me? Who
Hmm.
is this person? Because I really don't know. I don't have a look of him. I
Hmm.
don't know. I've never encountered him. And it's very, very dark as a result of where
Yes.
could he be at any time. We then flip back 8 years and to her first con, I think it was 8 years ago.
Mhm.
And did you write all the past cons all at once? Like once you had, or did you go and do those along the way?
So the first one was, again, when I first started writing it and I'm trying to like feel my way through and what is this book? And I didn't really know that I was going to do that part. And so I got to a certain part, I was like, okay, maybe I need to understand, how she came into this thing. And so I really kind of just wrote it. Maybe it would go in the book, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was just a writing exercise for me to like get a little bit more clarity of what I was trying to do. But then I was like, oh no, I'm really liking this, right? But then I'm like, how many of these do I want to do? I mean, like, what's too much? And so then I would just sort of keep writing. I was like, oh, now if I could go back and show why this is important in the present because of something in the past. And so then I was like looking for those moments. And when we did like the first draft, we sold it, and they were like, again, everybody's like, is there too many? Is there not enough? And maybe we should get rid of one. I'm like, well, which one are you getting rid of? Because like they all serve a purpose. Like I can trim them down, I can make them a bit smaller or, a little bit more streamlined, but who are we losing? Right. So then I even actually added another one and like almost one of the last edits. I was like, okay, y'all don't kill me, but actually add one, but it has to be there. Like it has to be there. And they're like, okay, no, we agree. It has to be there. And so, I did go in and tweak them a bit and try to get them into a manageable size. But yeah, they just, I don't know. They just were part of that.
Well, it was also informing you as you were writing.
Yes.
And I think that that's really important for readers to think about because I think sometimes we read a book and we feel like, okay, Ashley sat down and started typing on the keys and then this started coming and da da da. But it's how you need to get to learn the character and how you might have to take something away from her or him at one point because it's not going to serve the story. And I
Mhm.
think that the line about serving the story has been more and more talked about over the last couple of years of, is this really going forth to serve the story? Either, and I think it's coming because readers are used to everything being quicker with
Mhm.
social media, with the internet, with watching streaming. So it's got to be brisk. It can't
Right.
be anymore. It's got to be some kind of pace because that's what people are used to. And
Right.
you're writing against that as opposed to, and then what do they need to know? Well,
Mhm.
if they know this, then I don't need to write that. Am I?
Right. Yeah, and a lot of that too is like I don't want to just say, oh, like I don't want to just say this is what happened in the past and that's why what's happening right now is important. You want to show it, and I'm like, okay, well, I to show it. We got to show it. I got to get in it. And so yeah, I mean, it was a balance, and it was definitely like, okay, this one's a little long. Let me trim it a little bit, and it took a lot of rounds to get it right,
Mhm.
um, for sure.
But you know what the other thing too is sometimes you have to write it to trim it. You have to sit there and say, I don't really need that line anymore. I already said that. I can pull
Yes.
this thing out. It's not going to do any, it's not going to work for, it's not anything that I need. And I think that a lot of times when things get bloated, it's because it's too much need. Like it's no, we don't need that anymore. You think you
Right.
do, you know?
Right.
What
For
was
sure.
where's it? Somebody said it's like, no, we already saw the child. It's okay. Like we don't need
Yes.
to go again.
Yes.
You use social media very cleverly, and it's something that I saw would work actually, because I saw a friend comment once on another friend's post, and I'm like, how do they know each other? Like, I
Yeah.
had no idea. And this has happened to me more than once at this
Yes.
point. And I'm like, where do you two know each other? Like, I know you from working at the magazine, or you were the person who helped me decorate the house. How do you know these other people? And I think that once you see that, you see how it would work. But how were you figuring out how that could happen?
Well, I was in that mind space of like how would they communicate? And I wanted it to be kind of, fun because, as whatever this book is, I also wanted you to have fun. I mean, I want it to be
Mhm.
fun. And so I was like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. So we were going through it, but I was, of course, killing time on social media. And it was some random but big public account And like you said, my friend Missy commented on it. I was like, first, like, why is she commenting on that? I mean, okay, but then I was like, there's like 3,000 comments, and hers is the one, it's like their caption and then Missy and then her comment. And I was like, well, okay, well, so then I started really kind of looking, and like it kind of like a little bell, like, okay, well, hold on. So then I call her, I was like, hey, and I was telling her what I was doing. I was like, okay, you go like, and I think it was like Southern Living magazine. I was like, you go like Southern Living, and I'm going to go like Southern Living. And I want you to go and leave a comment. And then I'm going to wait like 5 minutes, and then I'm going to see if I see it. And sure enough, there it was. I was like, done, done, done. That's it. It works, you know. And so yeah, and then it's like that's how that algorithm works, is they want you to engage because people are engaging. And I was like, it works enough. I've tested it, works enough. Let's go.
Yeah. But it's really funny because you think about that is such a really simple thing in a lot of ways of how you figure out how somebody, you could even be sitting there and she could sit there and say, wait a second, they know this other person, that's going to ruin it for me. Like they can't know each other. Those two,
Right.
but you're not thinking about this when you're looking, and you're thinking about people who know each other, but it was like, wait, those two know each other, it's not going to be good for me. And
Yes.
it could be, we could take this as an extra chapter. Like we just wrote the extra chapter for Evie.
Yes.
Here we go.
Yes.
The setting is in the South and you're a Southern girl and you take us to all these different Southern cities and places. Did you do that by intent to give us this picture of the South? That's, not just the drippy, it's a hot, humid day,
Yes. Yes. Yeah, like reel it in, Scarlett O'Hara. Yeah. I am from Louisiana. I'm in Louisiana. And I love setting books here. And I'm in North Louisiana. So, everybody knows New Orleans. Not everybody knows North Louisiana. So it's always fun to me to set it here. I wanted to go through the South. I think that was fun. A lot of these con artist type books, you see the big heists in New York or LA or Paris. Well, what about in Nashville? And what about in Atlanta? And I liked the idea of sophisticated crime happening in a part of the country that's not always considered sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it was just a little bit of it was a way to make a little bit different take on it by putting it down here.
Yeah, like, super, super sharp, super, super. It's like, in every single moment. And I'm telling you, people, I have like lots of folded down pages here that we could be talking about from the summer. And I started rereading this morning. I was like, I will never get to this interview if I keep rereading all these pages, because there were a lot that were folded down. And I think that that's the fun thing, is to have a book that's sharp. They could just sit there and say, hey, just go read this. I think you're going to have a great time. And it's like, now my husband can get my galley. Like, but actually, he gives books more pristine. Like he gives them back. It looks like it was never read. And I'm like, really? I have like destroyed the book, he's very, very careful. I'm
That's awesome.
impressed, but I love the pace. And I was thinking with it that I was thinking of that music at the end of the Thomas Crown Affair where Sinner Man comes up. And I know this song only because I had to go find out what it was. And I work out to that song doing water aerobics. I mean, like full confession, because it's being played in the background. And I just saw there's certain moments where that would actually happen, but the action is so quick. And you don't realize it until you're realizing, what did she just do? Whoa, that was fast,
I love that. I love that. I love that song too. Like, and I love that movie. I love all that.
Yeah, there's just something so clever, and you go back and you watch it again to see how they did it. And I don't have a lot of time to go back and watch things again, but you sit there and it's like, I could watch that movie again and still enjoy it.
It's so clever. And I mean, like that whole, like having the whole group come in and it's just a distraction. And then he just simply goes in there and takes, I mean, like, I love that, like, look over here and I'm just going to take it. Like, I love that simplicity. It's
a sleight of hand kind of thing going on. It's that sleight of hand, that sleight of movement. And it's actually, I mean, I have a lot to read, but I would like to reread this book. And it's not that I'm sitting there going, oh, just because it's going to be for the interview. No, it's for the pleasure of reading the book again and seeing, wait, what did I miss? Because when you read as much as a lot of readers do, and you go shock and awe, that's like a pretty big deal, because a lot of shock and awe, that's what you're really looking to do,
That's amazing. Thank you.
So you've written a lot of, or 6 YA books, which I consider a lot of these days. So what spurred the career change? Like, I'm going to write an adult book, or like, do we sit there and say, I'm going to get up and write an adult book today, book
No,
for adults,
it's sort of the same way, my first four ways were mystery thrillers. And then I had this idea for a rom-com that was kind of ridiculous. And it was set at Christmas and, had a big family and I have a big family. And it was very nostalgic for me, writing it. And why would I all of a sudden write a rom-com? I don't know, but I just didn't question it. That's where my head was. And I wrote it and then wrote that plus the companion. But when I finished that, I was a little bit like, what do I do now? I mean, am I going back to mystery thrillers? Am I trying to do another rom-com? And it was in the middle of COVID, which was horrible for everybody, right? And so then you think, my life's never going to be normal. Like, are we ever going to be normal again? And so it was one of those moments like, well, maybe I'm done. And I had, had a career as a photographer. It was 10 years. And then I was almost at like year 10 with writing. I'm like, well, maybe I can only do something for 10 years. And then I got to go maybe I got to go be a baker and learn how to decorate cookies. And so then you watch all those videos, but then I was like, no, I don't know. So like I had said, but then I had that idea and it was this dinner party scene, which I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to write it. And once I started writing, I was like, well, this is not YA. I don't know what it is, but it's not YA. And I was like, well, let's go. Just sort of like doing the rom-com. Well, let's just see where this road takes us. And so I think being open to doing something different and not trying to overthink it, not thinking, oh no, that's not my brand. My brand is this. I can't go do this. Kind of allowed me to just be like, it'll work or it won't. And then maybe I'll go to culinary school. I don't know. I mean, I think, you just have to be able to say it might not work, but I'm still going to try.
That's right. It's interesting also, YA is such a short time in readers, like for readers. What is it, like 13 to 18, 13 to 20? Okay. And that's it. And these books, Fourth Wing Iron Flame that we're seeing out right now, we're really like a YA audience kind of a book. That's exactly, it's what everybody grew up reading. And it's interesting because we had Harry Potter for a long time. These are people who grew up reading Harry Potter. And then from there, it was the whatchamacallit series, the Twilight series. Okay.
Yes, right.
And then we're talking about, gosh, what's the next one? Why am I always spacing these three series? Well, there were three series in a row that people were reading.
Hunger Games, maybe.
Hunger Games, right. Yeah. It's really interesting when they talk about banning books. These were kids killing kids. You know what I mean? Like, and boy,
okay. Yeah.
Okay. They were selling no problem, everybody,
Yeah.
And so, okay, so we're sitting there, we've got these three series, but we haven't had a big series since then in YA. Think about this. So we've got this whole audience. Yes, there's books here and there, but nothing that people are going to go to the store at midnight and go stand online to do. Nothing. So when you think about this audience, is your YA readers are now 20s, 30s. They've grown up. So they're picking up First Lie Wins because they know your name. And you're the brand, whatever she's going to do. And I think it's very interesting because when you're talking about writing 6 YA, let's say it took period over 8 years or whatever number of years, those people are now older and still fans of yours. They're still followers of yours, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. And YA is so interesting to me too, because I think, you obviously have that teen crowd that it's sort of meant for, but you have the adults.
Yes.
And I would almost say it may not be 50-50, but it's maybe 60-40. I mean, it was surprising to me, but then I'm like, why am I surprised? I'm an adult. I read YA books.
Right.
Should not be shocking, but it was a very interesting dynamic to write for teens, but with the adults also reading it
in mind. Yeah. And it was interesting because we used to have a site called Teen Reads. And we would see that there was a large adult audience still reading the books. There was teachers or librarians that were recommending. And then there were just people who just liked the genre and enjoyed reading that. And a lot of those books were quick. The writing in it was quick. And I think for your having written that, like a pacing that people are used to seeing that may not happen if you start with adult. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but it may not happen because the scenes are kind of brisk. Everything's very quick. If I,
for sure. Yeah. And look, and if somebody's going to tell you you're not doing it right as a teen, I mean, if you don't have the age, what kids would say oh, they're going to hammer you, and if you're not keeping that attention, like you said, the pacing, they're going to hammer you. And I do think that was probably sort of the best place to come from, is
Mhm.
that because they will hold you very accountable if it's not right. And that's like making sure that's why I'm like, let me plug up any plot hole I could possibly find before anybody else is going to find it, because a teen will find a plot hole and they're going to tell you about it, and they're going to send you an email, or they're going to tag you in something. And so it's pretty good training, I do think, because you're like, okay, they're coming. I'll know they'll come for me. Let me find it first.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It was like training. It was like, it's 6 books of being said, okay, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? And seeing it. And for seeing a mistake, it makes you better. For things that I've done that they weren't the right tone or the right this, I get better at what you're doing, because you have that voice inside your head. You have that
Hmm.
voice
For
that says,
sure.
why are you doing this? Don't do that.
Hmm.
Now, you also have 3 boys, and I think the dedication is to them. The three
It
of them
is.
is at the beginning.
It
Now,
is.
at what point did they read this, or have they read it?
So my kids right now are 23, 21, and 15. The 21-year-old is similar to me in that he's a big reader as well. And he read probably pretty early, maybe second draft. Like,
Mm.
emailed him the file, he read on his computer, because he is really good at feedback and he is not afraid to tell me his exact thoughts on it, which I appreciate. And so he read it pretty early. I do think he told me he was rereading it again because it has changed since the version he read. My oldest son he's the audiobook guy, so he has listened to it once it came out, and he's super picky, but he loved the narration. He was very, very happy with it, and he liked it. The 15-year-old has not read it yet. He thinks he might at some point. I'm like, well, it's not going anywhere. It will be there when you're ready. So, yeah, I think he'll read it at some point, but
Maybe a sign for senior reading.
maybe so.
Maybe we should
Maybe
just
so.
sign it for senior reading, and then we'll see what we do,
Yes. Yes.
But I feel like after they read this, they may think, whoa, we can't get away with anything with her, because she is constantly seeing the other side of this. Like, have you read this? You haven't read it? And she's going to see right through you what you're doing there. Don't pull it
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
So you were a photographer, a wedding photographer specifically. What was that like, and how did that help you? Because a wedding photographer gets to see the whole wedding. You get to see everything that's evolving, and you're capturing it, but you're also seeing everything happening around.
Mm-hmm.
So how was that really good training for you of watching people?
I think I do think the photography and the writing in some ways go hand in hand. I feel like my attention to detail is pretty strong because, I mean, I am photographing my bride. Is her veil straight? Does she have a hair out of place? Where are the flowers? I mean, like, I can very quickly with things will stick out to me. I'm like, oh, let me fix this. Oh, there's a crease in your dress. Or wedding receptions, you're just scanning the crowd. Who are the big players? Who are the family members? Are they talking to somebody that I need to capture them talking to? And it is being aware of everything all at once, and not just the bride and groom. Where are the parents? Where's grandma? Has she left yet? Is she having a sweet moment with the bride? And it's just a level of awareness that you don't get if you're not hyper focused on knowing what is going on around you.
Mhm.
And then also the building of like the wedding album, right? What was the story of that day? We started early. You're getting your hair done, you're getting your makeup done, all the way to whatever vehicle you left, and under sparklers or rose petals or whatever it is you decided to do. And you're thinking, I've got to build this album. I'm telling the story. I'm going to be heavy on pictures for the ceremony because that's a big part of it. But the mother-in-law may be over here, maybe just a few of those because I don't know what a fan we are, right? Whatever it is. And so it's sort of that kind of like, where's the emphasis? Have we really showcased the big moments? Is there the drama of looking through the day? It's very hand in hand, I think.
Right, right. One of my cousin's daughter got married this weekend, and I wasn't at the wedding, so I've
Mhm.
only seen the videos and the pictures. And you're right, like what was captured and what didn't I see? Like I never saw
Right,
pictures of the whole room. I never saw this,
right.
but I saw a lot of dancing, and I
Mhm.
saw a lot of this. And it's really yes, you've got to get every single thing that later on Auntie Dee Dee did not get, like a picture or whatever. But years later, we've been married. My husband and I got married in 1985, right? So every once in a while, we look through the wedding album, not a lot, trust me, because I usually can't find it. And we go, who was at the wedding? Like they're friends that we know. Like one couple got married. I set them up at our wedding. So that was
Yeah.
like but there are other things that like, was Uncle so-and-so at the wedding? Like, do we
Mhm.
have table pictures from every
Mhm.
picture? Because I don't really remember. I
Right.
don't. And it's funny because you think you've got that whole day, but your job was to capture it in this,
Yes.
this
What's the vibe? I mean, like, what's the vibe? I mean, was it a dance party and there is a lot of that going on? Or
yes.
was it a lot of standing around and I need to make this look a little bit more exciting than it was because we're having a little bit of a moment where, okay, and how can I be like, this is so fun? And it was kind of not, I mean,
Right.
you know,
But
and I
that's
did like to make sure. I mean, I wanted you to know what the room looked like. I wanted you to know who all was there. Like it was important to me to give that full picture. But it does
yeah,
make you think in a different way about everything because it's just.
yeah, it's just all those little details that go into a wedding, but it's that microcosm of a day where usually none of those people are going to be together again. That's not
Mm-mm.
unless there's not a kid in the family, but it's still not going to have their friends. So you've really only got this one moment to pull it all together and get it right.
Right,
You know?
right. And then
So
the personalities too. And sometimes the bride and the mother-in-law, not good, and you're like kind of trying to blend into the draperies when they're having a moment because you're still in the room. I mean, like and so it's a lot of learning about seeing those personalities come into play. All smiles when out in public, when you're behind closed doors. I mean, it was great. It was a
it
great
takes
sort of.
really, really great training
It
of
was training.
what you're going to see and what you're going to see because you're the writer of that story. You're the writer
Exactly.
of their wedding in photographs.
Right. And I have the power to make this look fun or not fun. I mean, like based on what I took, how I present it, how I edit the photos, like, it, you know,
And
I,
now getting dressed is like a big part of it. Like
God,
we just showed up at the church. Like
yeah, same.
nobody was there ahead of time doing. I mean, I had like my friend doing my hair and makeup because she had traveled with me when I did shows on the road. But it was like, no, 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 no. But
It
now
was
it's
a
like matching
production.
pajamas, matching.
And the robes and and it's almost like you're done up before you're done up so that you look good before you're done up. I mean, and that's one reason why I was like, I'm gonna take a break. I mean, I had the 3 kids and I was getting burned out, but I mean, it turned into like when I first started, like my first wedding was like 1999 or whatever. I might be there for 4 or 5 hours, right? Because you came in and you did your thing and you left. We were getting into like 10, 11, 12-hour days. And I'm like, I'm done. I mean, like, I have kids and I missed a soccer game and, birthday parties that they had to go to. And
And then
because,
there's going to be brunch tomorrow morning. Are you coming
and
back?
then, and are you coming to the rehearsal dinner? No. Do you need me there? I mean, like, really, and we want you for everything. Okay. So, you know,
Yeah, and
that was why I was like, it's too much. It's too much. It's my whole weekend. It's too much.
yeah, you're creating a destination wedding now in the books. Like you can
Yes.
create that same kind of feeling because you also know the parts that you have to do to set up the big event. And I think that that's comes through here so much is you can't just get here. You got to do something to get along the way
Right.
and it's got to be realistic. And for you having seen what you saw, it's a big learn curve. It's a
It
huge
is.
learn curve,
It is. I do think I kind of I started maybe second base, maybe.
right. So you didn't really plot in advance. You didn't just sit there and go, oh, and now let's see.
No, I mean I had, but it was rough. My first draft was rough. I mean, there was a lot of fixing to do, but I gave myself the where are we going? Be open to a crazy left turn. And
Oh,
then I'll fix it later if it doesn't work.
right. So I read that paragraph where it says first lie wins. Was that always the title?
It was. And then my agent and I were like, you start overthinking things. And do we think it'll work? Do we think it'll, and then we change to something else. And we're like, no, that's boring. And then we went back to it. So pretty much, pretty
Yeah.
much.
And I think that people don't realize how much time you spend with your agent and with your editor talking things through. Like an
Yeah.
editor isn't sit there and just going, I'm going to buy a book and the book is going to come out. There's a lot of work that goes on in between. And I think that the way that a book comes together is much longer than, I mean, I know we were talking about this book and there was no cover. Like
I
we were
know.
talking about this and it was like, okay, we're going to build a website. We're going to do this, that, the other thing, but there was no cover for the book and the book comes.
I sold this book in September of 21.
Wow. Wow.
So, and I had to write it before that. I mean, like that's just when we sold it, and then it was edit. So
Right.
it's a long, but I know people will do it faster than that.
Right.
That is my process. I'm like, from the time usually that they buy a book and it comes out, I'm usually at 2 years. This one was a little bit longer,
Right.
for good reason, but it's about a 2 year for me.
Right. As opposed to it's like every year, and it's every year is hard. It's really, really hard because
I
you're
don't want to do that. I'm
this
not
and
that
that.
kind of writer. I'm not that kind of writer. And I am not good at, like, I'm gonna sit down at my desk and I'm gonna write for 4 hours a day. Like, I may not write all week, and then I may
Mhm.
write every day. And I'm not that good at that part of it.
When you're not writing, do you feel guilty?
No. Mm-mm,
No. Okay. That's good. Great.
mm-mm, mm-mm.
So you had film news before you even had the cover, which is like even more amazing. Like the book's not out. We don't have a cover, but there's film news. Hulu, Octavia Spencer, what's going on? what
Oh my
what
gosh. So
started out going on?
yes, God, that's been amazing. So yes, so we pretty early on, not long after we sold the book, we also optioned it with ABC Signature and Hulu, who owns ABC Signature owns Hulu. And then they attached Octavia Spencer and her group to it. And then Krista Varnoff, who was the writer and showrunner for years for Grey's Anatomy. And so she's attached to it as well. And I've read the pilot for the screenplay. It's amazing. I could not be happier with it. She has elevated it for television in a way that I could not have even dreamed of. Octavia's group, I mean, they could not be more supportive. I mean, she is like, let's go, we're doing it. And it's still a very long road. The writer strike obviously paused everything for everyone for a very long time. Now everybody's back and everybody's kind of hustling to get their stuff done. But I think everybody seems still very enthusiastic, and it feels good, and I'm very hopeful. But as you know, it's a long bumpy road.
It's a long bumpy road, but also the success of the book itself will only help
I
trying
hope.
to sell it to whoever is going to
Yes.
be a part of it. But whether it's
Yes.
actress or whatever, you got something to go, oh, look, this is
I know.
this. I'm trying to get the book. I can never do this backwards. And it's like, really important that the book stands on its own as well. Like the story works. People are crazy about this because then they sit there and go, well, how can we make them crazy? Then the pressure becomes, how do we keep what they felt was so important and make sure it's a big part of whatever we're going to screen? Because sometimes the things are great. Some things I've loved and some things I've said, I could have done that better. It's like,
Yeah. No, I'm very happy. Very happy. It's a dream team. I'm very happy. I'm very hopeful. I'm very happy. So
it's like you're like living this like bubble fabulous thing.
I know.
Like, and I have to make dinner and do the dishes. Like, are you kidding me? Do you know who I am? I'm Ashley Elston. I'm the author of First Lie Wins. Do you know that? Pick up
And
your
then my kids are like, "What time is dinner?" And you're like,
Mom, you got an
"Bring it
interview.
on down."
You've got an interview tonight. Yes, we're getting pizza.
Yes,
Oh,
pizza.
Mom, please, not cooking again. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
So, how about the audio? Have you listened? You said your son has. It's Saskia Marleveld is the one who does the audio. Have you listened?
No, I have. Well, I listened to. They sent me a whole bunch of them with a few minutes, and I knew immediately. I heard her voice. I was like, "That's her. It's it. That's done." And I listened to the rest of them, and I just kept going back to her. And then my agent agreed, and then I let my friends listen. We all agreed. I was like, "Yes, that's her. That's her." I cannot listen, nor can I read it again, because I know I would find something I would want to tweak or change, and I can't. That ship has sailed, and so I years ago learned, once it is public, it is not mine, and I don't need to consume it again. And so I have not. I've heard that she is great, and I fully believe that she's great, but I cannot listen to it because it's my book.
It's my book. I can't sit there and say,
Not.
I wrote these words in my head for so
Yes.
long. They're out of my head and I don't need them back in my head right
Yeah.
now. I need to
If
go to
I
the
heard something that I was like, oh, I should have said it like this, that would haunt me. And I'm like, I'm just not doing that to myself.
see. So not writing doesn't haunt you, but rewriting would haunt you.
Yes.
Like I could rewrite
Yes.
that. I could
Yes.
make it better.
Yes.
you also have a group that you wrote with, that your writing core team. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I know the three of you, and
Yeah.
I feel that the support that you give each other is amazing. So
Yeah.
let's start with who they are, and then, like, why that all works,
Yes. Okay. So I have the two best critique partners ever. I have Megan Miranda and El Casamano, who are fabulous writers. We all started in YA. We all started with the same agent around the same time. Megan was a little bit ahead of us, maybe by a year. Her first book came out in 2012, mine in 2013, and then Elle's in 2014. And so for me personally, our agent, she signed me on, and I've got to start writing a new book. And she's like, "Do you have a critique partner?" And I'm like, "I do not." And so she's like, "Well, you need one." I was like, "Well, you're gonna have to get me." I mean, like, I don't even know where to start with that. And so she's like, "Well, I have some other clients I think y'all would be a good fit." And so she introduced us on a group email. And I was like, "Hi, so nice to meet you," and then we start sharing a little bit of pages, and then you start getting some of that feedback, and then you have read some of their pages, and then you're like, "Okay, no, we're all on the same page." Like, I feel like even our stuff was very different. It was similar in a way. And then we met for the first time. Well, Megan and Elle had met before. I met them for the first time at Y'all Fest in Charleston. And it was like, "Here, I'm going to this weekend." And I don't know them other than from emails. And we had the best time. And we just clicked, and we all got along, and just talk. Books, not books, everything else. And then from there, I mean, we now try really hard to get together 2 or 3 times a year if we can help it. Either at somewhere like Thriller Fest, or even if we're just like going to Megan's, because I can fly there without a connection and Elle can drive down. So it's a nice meeting spot and just hang out. And yeah, it's been amazing. And they've both moved to adult. I always say, I don't know why I'm an adult, but also, like, y'all can't leave me behind. Here I come. So
I love the way you all cheerlead each other. I mean, you were
yeah.
at Megan's house when you got the news about the New York Times list last week, and I understand her daughter shot that video of you. And I honestly and truly, I think I've watched that 20 times.
I
Easy.
think I have to.
20 times. And my husband goes, "What are you laughing at?" And I said, "The reaction. Like, you've got to come in and see." But if you know the players, you're laughing
Yes.
even more, because you just do this thing, and
Yes.
it's really great.
Well, Megan was like, "I'm going to film you." But then she looked at her daughter and she's like, "I mean, you film her too," which is good, because Megan's video is like this, because she's jumping up and down.
And
So
screaming.
yeah, screaming and jumping like this. And so we were very glad to have Alexa be very, on her game,
Alexa, you're the photographer,
Yes.
okay? We're the talent. We can do whatever we want.
Yes. And so that was an amazing moment. I was very glad to be with her for that moment. And it was amazing. It was amazing.
It was amazing. Well, she says, yeah, she said she had the bourbon ready to go. That really
Oh, it was on the table. And I mean, it was perfect.
But I'm like, not champagne, bourbon. I was
Oh,
like, oh,
yeah.
this is even like more perfect. She's in the
Yes.
car. I talked to her, she's in the car, and she's, "I'm going to pick her up now. And I've got the bourbon all ready." And I just got cracked up. I was like, that's funny. That's really
Yep,
good.
she knows me well. She knows me well.
So you're doing a lot of talking about this book right now. Talk, talk, talk. What's next? Have you started anything, or started musing, or because everybody's going to be like, "Now what are you doing?" Like,
I
"Oh,
know, and it's a lot in the head, like,
mhm,
talk about trying to live up to something,
mhm,
right? And
mhm,
very, writing is such a mental game. Like,
mhm,
can I write anything else? And am I okay with it not living up? And because this is a lot. Like there's a good chance it's not living up to this, right? And can I do that? And so it's a lot of mental. I'm working on something. I'm in that very early, like, where are we going? What are we doing? Marinating kind of, but liking it enough to where I'm like, "Okay, all right, let's go." And so I'm, took this month to treat the book like the newborn that it is and give it all the attention it needs. And then, I'm hoping in February to kind of like, "All right, buckle down, get your mind back right. Maybe we can do this again." So
right, right. Yes. Well, I'd say you can do it again. If you ever become like, just call me, and I'll just say,
I,
"Yeah, I know you can do it. I know you can do it." Like,
yes,
you're going to be able to crash this again. But no,
yes,
it's just such a good book. And I think that the pleasure that people have reading it is going to be the thing that's going to buoy you on. And don't let that take you, oh, it takes, I don't know if I can do it again. Instead, say, I want to do it for them and I can do this. And take that other attitude of I can do it. And I want
Yeah.
to deliver something them they enjoy as much as this, because you know what the feedback has been. I mean, people are calling me when they finish it, or they're said, I am 100 pages in or 50 pages in, and I get what you meant. And I'm like, see,
I know it has been overwhelming in the best possible way. It's been good. It's been very good. And that's saying it lightly. I mean, like there's no words. There's no
yeah.
words.
But you know what? It's nice because it's not, you're not an overnight success and figuring out what to, no, it didn't come like that. It came from a lot of
I am very glad this was not my like very first book ever, because
right.
I don't know that how you would even be equipped to handle this if you had not already, I'd have already been in this 10 years. Like I know how publishing, I know the ups and downs, I know how hard it can be. It would have been very hard having no experience and then having this sort of
But it
reaction.
also would have been very hard because you sit there and go, oh, I expect this happens all the time. And it
Oh,
doesn't. You know, but you also know what didn't happen before that you really needed to happen. And what happens in YA doesn't need to happen in adults. So it's learning a whole new market. And all that knowledge. I mean, I things that I did 27 years ago when we started this company are very different from what I do now. Market, same thing. Marketplaces change. What's going
right.
on? What's happening? How you introduce people. I mean, let's face it, Zoom. I mean, where would you, okay, before you would have done a bunch of store events.
Mhm.
Maybe you would have done what, a couple of radio shows, they did a radio
Maybe.
tour, maybe some local television. Okay.
Mhm. I've been it.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's all that would happen. And now you're thinking of, you don't even have to do huge store events right now. You can just be doing lots of Zooms, talking to tons of people. But the other day when we introduced your book, where everybody said they really loved it, it came in second to Kristen Hannon's The Women of the book they want to read. I mean, that's pretty big, folks.
Yes.
It's 300 people on Zoom listening to that preview event. That becomes really big. It's one little thing at a time, but there are lots of little things happening all over the place as
Yes.
well as big things.
And
So
that's what it feels like. It feels like, it took a village. It took all of the parts coming together, and it was sort of that perfect storm, so to speak.
right, right timing, right. And you know what? It's snowing around here. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about travel this
Yes.
time of year, which is so huge, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I'm
Yes.
hoping to see you at some events during the year because I have a funny feeling you're gonna do some book festivals. I've just got this
I would love
feeling
to.
that be in your future. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I am doing the Tucson Book Festival. That's on the books.
You're gonna have a blast. You're gonna have a
So
blast.
excited about that.
Food trucks outside that serve like Mexican food besides what's in the room for the writers, but
Yes.
there's all this like really fun excitement. And the
Yeah.
campus is like really big. It's like a
I've
big
never
thing.
been to Arizona, so I'm looking forward to it.
The last time I did the events for them, I did 5. I moderated 5 events for them while I was there. And I was supposed to do 5 the following year, and then COVID hit. And literally they canceled on Monday and I was flying out Thursday.
Oh
So
well.
it was like where are we going? So
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm excited.
yep, it's all going to be good things. And you're
Yeah.
going to get to meet people who have read it, which is going to make it even more interesting because then there's that balance of how you talk about it. Because some of the room has read it, the others you're hoping go buy it. So then there's this, I can't give too much away still.
Right.
So,
Right.
but there's enough here to share, folks. I'm just saying, there's all you need to just go read it, and you'll see where like my little sticky pad, and you're going to see where first love. You won't be able to miss it, folks. It's early. So
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. I so appreciate this because I know you've got a busy schedule. So
No,
appreciate
it's all good. I love it. You made this so fun. Thank you so much.
it. And to our readers, we look forward to seeing you next time on Book Reporter Talks to. I'm trying to remember what I've got scheduled, but don't worry, it's going to be something fun because that's always what we're looking for here and to introduce you to new books. Go read First Lie Wins. I want to hear from you about it. I want to hear how you're feeling about it. And you can do that on our website on word of mouth. And I expect to hear lots of entries about this. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody.